Well, the University of Sydney is copying the worst of the American Ivy League colleges with its Palestinian sit-ins and horrific anti-Semitism. This chant of Interfa was filmed at the University of Sydney today.
Intifada, 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 Intifada. Thank you.
And this chant from last night, where the students say there is only one solution: Intifada revolution. Have a listen.
There is only one solution. Intifada revolution. There is only one solution. Intifada revolution.
Intifada means uprising, and intifadas historically have been violent and have included acts of terrorism. There are students at the University of Sydney, where the Vice-Chancellor is former ABC boss Mark Scott, demanding an intifada. This is an horrendous call for uprising, today and last night, at a time when social unrest is at boiling point. And then the students also chanted this.
Here to make a stand that, this campus is no place for Zionist institutions like the universities and weapons companies that USyd currently partners with. We're here to make a stand that USyd is no place for these Zionist entities, and that the student body and staff here reject Zionism in all of its forms.
Reject Zionism in all its forms. Seriously? Zionism is the support of Israel. Rejecting Zionism is rejecting not only Israel, but Jews and the Jewish homeland. Well, who is supporting this protest at the University of Sydney? The Greens, of course. You remember Green Senator Jenny Leong? She was caught on camera saying the Jews have their tentacles everywhere. Well, she posted a video on social media today.
The fact that they have not cut ties with those military agencies and with the Israeli authorities.
Out there protesting among the students, and federal Green Senator David Shoebridge said on X that USyd students occupy quad lawns in solidarity with Gaza tonight, and he also went down to the protest. But then he went further, and this is seriously outrageous. David Shoebridge shared and posted a video on Instagram where the lyrics say, "It's about time that we globalise the Intifada." Watch.
This is for Palestine, Ramallah, West Bank, Gaza. It's about time we globalise the Intifada.
That David Shoebridge's Instagram. That is highly irresponsible for a federal Greens politician to have posted that. Highly irresponsible, to say the least. Very clearly, the anti-Semitism of American college campuses, where over 100 protesters have been arrested over the past week, is now being copied by the University of Sydney, where last night students pitched tents that read "From the river to the sea," and you can see that vision there. The students and their supporters like David Shoebridge and Jenny Leong said outright that they're acting in solidarity with the pro-Palestinian protesters at Columbia. But look at the sort of hate that's unfolding in the US.
But critics highlight anti-Semitic hate speech among the demonstrators. New York's mayor pointing to this image, showing a woman with a sign in front of pro-Israel protesters reading Al-Qassam's next targets, a reference to Hamas's military wing.
There were people outside of campus one time with signs that said "Death to all Jews." That is awful, and nobody should be having to experience that on their campus.
And riot police were called to try and get protests under control.
Police arrested more than 100 protesters who set up the tents in the so-called Gaza Solidarity encampment. Officers used flex cuffs to remove the protesters from campus, charging them with trespassing and disorderly conduct.
And a Jewish university professor claims that he was denied entry to Columbia because the university officials couldn't protect his safety.
I'm a professor here. I have every right to be everywhere on campus, so they are willing to use Jewish brains, but they don't want to let Jewish people in. But I'm not allowed to go on campus where they are allowing the Hamas supporters, and that is a shame.
And classes were cancelled at Columbia on Monday, with lessons now moving to online or hybrid for the rest of the term. The university president is now also under pressure to resign. Now, most of us would look on at that in horror, but not the University of Sydney, which has simply copied the playbook. Their own encampment started last night at 5:30. They pitched tents that read "From the river to the sea." And supposedly responsible adults like David Shoebridge and Member of Parliament Jenny Leong, they think it's a good idea to bring this division to Australia. Now, you all know my views on Israel's war on Hamas, how Israel can't have a ceasefire, it needs to destroy Hamas, which has vowed to repeat its atrocities over and over again. But I respect that others have a different view. And irrespective of our views, we can't control what happens in the Middle East, but we can control what happens here in Australia, at the education institutions our children attend. And bringing this division, this hatred to Australia is only creating an unsafe environment for students. And the reality is that at the University of Sydney, Jewish students no longer feel safe to go on campus. Doesn't it strike you as absurd that the left, that was so obsessed with everyone feeling safe, no one feeling marginalised, to the point that they've added pronouns to their email signatures to make the 1% who've changed genders feel comfortable, yet they don't care at all about how Jews might feel on campus, that they might feel bullied or threatened by signs that say "From the river to the sea," that suggest annihilating the Jewish homeland, or that they might feel bullied by a sign that says "Death to Jews." It's one of the great contradictions of the time we're living in. Those who claim to be tolerant, who are obsessed with identity politics and virtue signalling, showing hatred and bullying towards Jews. Those who preach equality, practicing blatant racism. Those who claim to be fighting for peace, in fact, are actually excusing and justifying violence of the most barbaric kind we've witnessed in the past 75 years. Yet again, the West is crying out for leadership.